A used tire seems like the end of a story. It has traveled thousands of kilometers, endured weight, heat, rain, hard braking, and impacts against the asphalt, becoming a difficult-to-manage waste product. Its structure is a mixture of natural rubber, synthetic rubber, steel, textile fibers, carbon black, sulfur, and chemical additives designed to last for years. Therefore, in a modern recycling plant, this waste product enters a completely different process. There, it is neither burned openly nor abandoned. It is cut, separated, heated in the absence of oxygen, and transformed into fuel, oil, gas, recovered steel, and reusable carbon. The process begins with collection. Auto repair shops, tire shops, transport companies, mines, ports, airports, and municipal depots generate enormous quantities of used tires. Some belong to ordinary cars. Others are tires from trucks, agricultural machinery, or mining equipment much larger, heavier, and more difficult to move. At an industrial recycling plant, the tires arrive by truck and are unloaded in a receiving area. There, they are weighed to record the incoming volume and sorted according to size, condition, and approximate composition. This initial check seems simple, but it is crucial. A car tire does not behave the same as a heavy-duty truck tire because the amount of steel, the proportion of rubber, and the thickness of the structure differ. Contaminants such as trapped stones, mud, external metal fragments, or foreign objects are also removed. After sorting, the size reduction process begins. A complete tire is too large, elastic, and resistant to fit directly into most thermal equipment. That's why it goes through high-powered shredders, machines equipped with slow-speed shafts and hardened steel blades that bite into the rubber with enormous force. The tire doesn't cut like fabric or break like brittle plastic. It tears into irregular fragments because it's designed to withstand torsion, pressure, and temperature. The first shredder turns the tire into large pieces. Then, a second stage reduces those fragments to smaller chips. In some systems, the material passes through granulator mills that bring it to more uniform sizes. The goal is not to pulverize it completely, but to prepare it so that the heat penetrates evenly inside the reactor. The more controlled the material size, the more stable the thermal conversion becomes. During this preparation, one of the tire's most important components appears: steel. Inside the tire are wires and metal belts that give it rigidity, stability, and strength. When the rubber is shredded, some of that steel is exposed. Magnetic separators installed on conveyor belts attract the metal fragments and extract them before the thermal stage. This steel can be cleaned, compacted, and sold as scrap to steel mills. What was once mixed waste becomes a stream of recovered material. Textile fibers can also be separated. Many tires contain polyester, nylon, or rayon used to reinforce the casing. These fibers do not always have the same commercial destination as steel, but removing them improves the quality of the material entering the reactor and reduces impurities in the final products. Once shredded and partially separated, the rubber is stored in feed hoppers or silos. From there, screw conveyor systems or enclosed belts carry it to the heart of the plant, the pyrolysis reactor. This term describes a very specific thermal transformation. Unlike combustion, pyrolysis doesn't aim to burn the tire with an open flame. Instead, it heats it in an oxygen-free environment, or one with minimal oxygen, so that the long rubber molecules break down into smaller molecules. This difference is crucial. When rubber is burned uncontrollably, it releases smoke, soot, and polluting compounds. In contrast, when heated in a closed reactor, its vapors can be captured, condensed, and processed. The residue doesn't magically disappear, but it is reorganized into usable products. The reactor can take on different designs. Some plants use rotary reactors, similar to enormous metal cylinders that rotate slowly as the material moves through them. Others use screw furnaces, continuous systems, vacuum chambers, or modular configurations. In all cases, the objective is to control three main variables: temperature, residence time, and absence of oxygen. When the shredded rubber enters the reactor, the most important phase of the process begins. The material moves slowly inside a sealed chamber, where there is not enough oxygen for normal combustion. Heat is supplied from outside. via burners, heating elements, hot gas circulation, or integrated thermal systems. In the most efficient plants, some of the gas produced during pyrolysis itself is reused as an energy source to keep the process running. Inside the reactor, the rubber doesn't melt like ordinary plastic. It first softens, then decomposes, and finally releases dark vapors laden with hydrocarbons. These vapors are the key to the fuel. They are made up of a complex mixture of molecules resulting from the breakdown of the rubber and the oils present in the tire's original formulation. Heating must be gradual and controlled. If the temperature is too low, decomposition is incomplete and less oil is generated. If it is too high, some of the oil may turn into gas or produce lighter fractions. If the material remains in the reactor for too short a time, unconverted residue is released. If it remains too long, it can degrade excessively. That's why industrial plants use sensors, valves, automatic controls, and constant pressure and temperature monitoring. As pyrolysis progresses, the reactor generates three main streams. The first is a hot gas stream, which exits through pipes to the cooling systems. The second is a solid residue, known as char, composed of recovered carbon, black minerals, ash, and inorganic debris. The third is the steel still trapped in some fragments, which can be separated after the process. The vapors exit the reactor and enter condensers. There they are cooled in a controlled manner. As the temperature drops, some of these vapors condense into a liquid. This liquid is tire pyrolysis oil, also called TPO. It has a dark color, a strong odor, and a variable composition. It is not gasoline ready for use in a vehicle. It is a mixture of hydrocarbons that can be used as an industrial fuel or sent for further refining processes. The oil is collected in separate tanks. Depending on the plant design, it may undergo several stages of condensation. The heavier fractions condense first. The lighter ones require additional cooling. This fractionation process yields streams with distinct characteristics. Some may be better suited for boilers, industrial furnaces, or adapted generators. Others require filtration, dehydration, desulfurization, or distillation before reaching more demanding applications. One of the most important factors is the sulfur content. Tires contain sulfur because this element is involved in vulcanization, the process that gives rubber its elasticity and strength. When the tire is converted into oil, some of that sulfur can end up in the liquid. This is why pyrolysis oil cannot always be used directly in conventional engines. For cleaner or regulated applications, it requires additional treatments to reduce sulfur, particulate matter, and unwanted compounds. As the oil condenses, some of the vapors do not become liquid. This fraction remains as a non-condensable gas. Far from being a useless waste product, this gas has calorific value. Many plants direct it to a controlled combustion system to fuel the process itself. This allows the reactor to rely less on external fuels. The old tire provides liquid oil, but it also contributes gas to maintain the temperature required to convert more tires. This closed-loop system improves energy efficiency. The gas is cleaned, regulated, and burned in burners designed to maintain a stable temperature. The combustion gases then pass through treatment systems where particulate matter, acidic compounds, and emissions are controlled. The difference between a modern plant and a rudimentary operation lies precisely in that control. The value of the process is not only in producing fuel, but in doing so with material recovery, vapor capture, and emissions reduction. The oil obtained can be stored in industrial tanks. Before leaving the plant, it is usually analyzed in a laboratory. Properties such as density, viscosity, water content, calorific value, sulfur, ash, and the presence of solids are evaluated. These analyses determine its final destination. In some cases, the oil is used as an alternative fuel in cement kilns, boilers, industrial plants, or thermal equipment designed for that type of mixture. In others, it is sold as a raw material for refineries or petrochemical processes that can separate more valuable fractions. The transformation is striking because a used tire contains a large amount of chemical energy. Part of that energy comes from its origin. Many tire components are derived from petroleum. During pyrolysis, the plant does not create energy from nothing. It recovers a portion of the energy trapped in the rubber and returns it in the form of oil and gas. After pyrolysis, the process continues with the management of the final products. Oil is the most striking result because it represents the direct conversion of a solid waste into liquid fuel. But it is not the only important product. In many cases, the true value of the plant depends on the combination of oil, gas, steel, and recovered carbon. The solid residue remaining inside the reactor is discharged when the cycle is complete or continuously used in more advanced industrial systems. It is a black, hot, carbon-laden material. At first glance, it looks like ash, but its composition is more complex. It contains original carbon black from the tire, minerals, inorganic compounds, traces of additives, and small metallic particles. If handled in a basic way, it can be sold as char for low-value uses. If refined, it can be transformed into recovered carbon black. Carbon black is one of the fundamental ingredients of new tires. It is used to reinforce the rubber, increase its wear resistance, and give it its characteristic color. Producing virgin carbon black requires intensive industrial processes, generally associated with fossil fuels. Therefore, recovering carbon from used tires is of both environmental and economic interest. The challenge lies in achieving consistent quality. To improve this material, the char can undergo fine grinding, magnetic separation, particle size classification, thermal or chemical treatments, and pelletizing. The goal is to remove impurities, reduce ash, control moisture, and obtain a more uniform product. This recovered carbon can be used in rubber, plastics, inks, paints, modified asphalt, or industrial applications, where the same purity as virgin carbon black is not always required. Steel also follows its own path. Wires recovered before and after pyrolysis are cleaned, compacted, and sold as scrap metal. In a steel mill, this material can be melted down and transformed into new parts, rods, profiles, or components. The tire, which seemed like an impossible to separate waste product, thus returns a metallic fraction that re-enters the industrial chain. Non-condensable gas, when used within the plant, reduces external energy consumption. This integration is key to the process's viability. A facility that requires too much external fuel to heat the reactor can lose efficiency. Conversely, when it utilizes its own gas, it improves its energy balance. Even so, this gas must be handled with care. It contains combustible compounds and requires safety systems, relief valves, pressure sensors, emergency flares, and emissions controls. Liquid fuel can have various uses. In industrial applications, it can partially replace other heavy fuels. It can also be blended or refined, depending on local regulations and buyer requirements. Its calorific value often makes it attractive, but its composition necessitates handling it according to technical criteria. It is neither a household fuel nor a simple product. It is an industrial input that requires proper storage, quality analysis, and emissions control during use. The environmental impact of the process depends on how the plant is designed and operated. Poorly controlled pyrolysis can generate odors, emissions, contaminated waste, and problems for nearby communities. A modern plant, on the other hand, operates with closed systems, efficient condensation, filters, gas scrubbing, continuous monitoring, and safe waste management. Technology alone does not guarantee sustainability. Operation, regulation, and control are equally important. Tire recycling also competes with other uses. Some tires can be retreaded and returned to service, especially in heavy transport. Others are shredded to manufacture granulated rubber, sports flooring, shock-absorbing surfaces, asphalt mixtures, or civil engineering materials. They are also used as tire-derived fuel in cement kilns, where the shredded tire is burned directly under controlled conditions. Pyrolysis occupies a different role. It seeks to recover chemical and energy products without directly burning the tire. The advantage of pyrolysis is that it separates the components more effectively. Instead of using the entire tire as solid fuel, it breaks it down into oil, gas, steel, and carbon. This allows for a more circular economy, provided the products are of sufficient quality to be reintroduced into the market. The challenge is both technical and commercial. It's not enough to process tons of tires. Each output must have real value. In a mega plant, activity is constant. Trucks arrive with used tires. Cranes feed storage areas. Shredders operate with a heavy roar. Conveyor belts carry reduced rubber to enclosed hoppers. Reactors rotate or slowly push the heated material. Vapors travel through insulated pipes. Condensers cool the mixture. The oil drips into dark tanks. The gas is returned as energy. The steel accumulates in metal bales. The carbon is ground, sorted, and prepared for new uses. What enters as a mountain of waste leaves as a series of raw materials. Not all of them have the same value, not all require the same treatment, and not all can be used without regulation. But together they demonstrate that an old tire is not just trash. It's an industrial structure laden with materials, energy, and chemicals. The process also reveals a paradox of the modern economy. For decades, tires were designed to last, withstand wear and tear, and not easily decompose. That was their greatest strength on the road and their biggest problem when they became waste. Now, the industry is trying to resolve that contradiction with technology, using heat, the absence of oxygen, and chemical control to dismantle what was originally manufactured not to break down. In the future, tire recycling will increasingly depend on the quality of the recovered products. Pyrolysis oil can gain ground as an industrial raw material if it is refined more effectively. Recovered carbon black can be reintroduced into new manufacturing processes if it meets consistent standards. Steel will remain a valuable fraction, and the internal gas can make plants more self-sufficient. Thus, an abandoned tire ceases to be a static problem and becomes part of an industrial cycle. First, it was rubber, steel, and carbon to power vehicles. Then it was waste. Later, inside a closed plant, it is broken down again into energy, metal, and reusable material. Its journey doesn't end in a landfill, but in a reactor where extreme heat transforms a tough waste product into dark fuel, usable gas, and raw materials that slowly return to industry.